Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. Danny here, and today we're sitting down. We're talking about Dr. Stone. We're actually going to be talking about the side story, Dr. Stone Reboot, Byakuya. But before we get into that, I figured it's been a while since I talked about this on the show. And the last time I did an episode on Dr. Stone was the first manga review, which was at chapter 73. We are now in the 140s. Yeah, 142 is the last chapter, so it's been a minute. And I gotta say, a lot of stuff has happened in the manga since that last happened. It was like this clashing factions, right, between Senku and, I forget his name, but the other guy who was like the strongest primate high schooler, or whatever his nickname was, right? Well, since then, a lot of interesting stuff has happened where it's keeping the manga fresh, and I really appreciate that. Right, so this is written by Inagaki, right, from fame of Ice Shield 21, right? I'm a big fan of that series, and of course drawn by the one and only Boichi, right, fame from Senken Rock, and his art is amazing as always. And I think I said before on the show, I was sort of up in the air with his art style for Dr. Stone because it's getting more childish. Not really childish, but more, I don't know. It complements the story for sure, but this is not his best work art-wise. There's some great shots sometimes, but I don't know, just go to Sunken Rock, just Google that real quick. Look at some of the amazing art this guy's done in that series. And come in here, it's like, yeah, it just doesn't feel the same, but I understand the theme, the settings, the story are all different, so that, kind of all works out at the end. So, other than that, yeah, still a great series. All the characters are strong. We got introduced to a whole slew of new characters in a big arc that just ended recently, not that long ago. And we just started our next arc, right? Our next story of this series. And I gotta say, like, it's gonna be pretty crazy, but it's gonna be fun to watch. And yeah, man, I got to say, it's gonna get really interesting from this point forward. I know from the anime side, right, because this did get an anime, the problems some people had was like, oh, it's kind of just, oh, well, here's our invention of the week trope, which Dr. Stone did do that for a while. But it found its answer. This kind of reminds me of Promise Neverland, right? Another Jump series that's pretty big right now that I'll get back into soon once that ends. I'll do an episode on that. But the problem with that was, what are we going to do when we leave Gracefield? And they got their answer. And it was really good. And it's doing that here, where we found the answer. We are pushing really hard on it, and it's perfect, and sure, there can be action, but that's not the main focus, and it has this nice balance between action, dialogue, and setups, really. So that's pretty good. I'm really enjoying Dr. Stone. I highly recommend it, as I will always do, until something unfortunate happens, which I doubt, because Inagaki is pretty solid with storytelling, just like his storytelling here in the side story. Like I said, Dr. Stone Reboot, Byakuya. This is a short 9-chapter run involving Senku's father, right, and his crew. If you remember in the main series, he flew up into space into one of these satellite stations, and when he got up there is when the world turned to stone, and by him and his team ended up coming down and trying to save what's left of humanity, and those are the characters that we meet in present day in Dr. Stone, like the descendants of that crew. And when you first read it, you're like, oh, cool, we're actually going to be going into what they witnessed, right? For a good chunk of the chapters, it's all these characters on the space station going back to Earth trying to figure stuff out. But that is not the main focus, and his father is not even the main character in this, to my surprise. So We did get some little flashback backstory, which was nice, between Senku and his father, which I'm pretty sure his name is Byakuya. Let me double check on that, so I don't keep saying his father. And the main character is actually this AI robot that he made, which starts off as like a little simple creation here. Yes, his name is Byakuya. Okay. Yeah, so Byakuya creates this little AI robot that uses air as self-propulsion. So it's floating, in the space station, because, no gravity makes it way easier to work. And it's sort of smart. It has a lot of, I guess, what did they say, smartphone chips in it. So it has some intelligence. And Byakuya told him, like, hey, you're going to stay here while we're going to go down to Earth and go down to Japan specifically. And while that happens, the robot's just, it's a robot, so it doesn't understand the concept of death or like the true intentions that Byakuya had when it was telling the robot this. And it just thinks, oh yeah, well, he'll still be here. We'll bring him up, whenever he's ready. So the whole time, this robot is maintaining the ship. And I gotta say, it is a nice story to go with in this series. Ray is the name of the robot, and it's almost a little sad, because for a long time you're just reading from Ray's perspective, how it's all alone, and we really don't know what's happening, and years go by, decades, centuries, and we actually, see Ray do some pretty crazy stuff. Even though it's a little tiny robot, it does like really cool stuff in space. Actually goes to mine asteroids for supplies that it needs. And there's a lot of like really cool sci-fi stuff to see. And I'm not going to be surprised if this is going to come back in the main series. Ray actually dies, right? And gets reformed, right? Creates a new body. And the new body is what we see in the first chapter of the side story, which is pretty cool. So, I don't know. We might see that coming down the line. Based where the main story is going, I could totally see that happening. Be pretty crazy, but you know what? Some of the stuff that we're going to have to do in Dr. Stone is going to get pretty crazy. So that'll be cool. Overall, yeah, really great story. Itagaki really had a nice way of telling this short story that ties in so well to the main series of Dr. Stone. And just skimming through the chapters here, we get to see some characteristics that get carried on through generations. And really like the main chunk in the first half is all about the setup of sending these people back to Earth, and it's really cool stuff. And while this is happening, they're witnessing the effects of people not on Earth, being active, and it was some really cool stuff, like totally post-apocalyptic movie vibes that you could get from this, right? So that's really fun. Yeah, and then basically chapter 5 to 9, it's all about Ray just by itself. And, we see the days count down. And we do see the view from Earth sometimes, right? So Byakuya, when we finally see him again, he's an old man. He's the last one out of the original crew, teaching these kids of the next generation, a few things. And it just gets really good stuff, man. I totally recommend checking it out. Really wholesome, and a lot of times the humor is actually pretty fun, especially coming from Ray. It's just so random, and it's just good stuff, man. There's some great art pieces, some spread chapters, just real nice. And we do see some of the main characters, at the very end of the series of this story. So that was pretty cool. Wasn't expecting that. And other than that, yeah, again, it's only 9 chapters, guys, so check it out. It's a good read, just like Dr. Stone is a great read, and you will not be disappointed. So with that, I think we're going to end it off because I see there's a new One Piece chapter ready to read. So I'm going to get into that. And while we're going to wait for the next episode, I know it's going to be a little shaky on scheduling wise, but we'll try to get it out to you as consistent as we can. And while we wait for that, remember that's Unverse Podcast on social media if you want to stay caught up on the latest episodes. unversepodcast@gmail.com. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, don't forget our other show, Marvel Talk. We're having episodes drop regularly there as well. Thanks for listening, guys. And until next time, we'll catch you later.
Those voices. They're outside. They're all I must be. Data cut. Of me now that you're experimenting.